welcome to the show, everybody. Dr. David Hooper here, and I am so excited to welcome you to the first ever episode of the Unstoppable Introvert Project. This is a podcast all about celebrating introversion, unlocking your inner potential, helping you become the highest performing, unstoppable version of yourself. Like I've mentioned, I am your host, Dr. David Hooper, and today we're diving into the world of introversion, where quiet strength meets unwavering determination. And I am so thrilled that you are joining me for this new podcast series. It's been a long time in the making, and I am just so thrilled to be able to get this content out there for you. So picture this. You, as an introvert, have a unique skill set. You have a unique set of qualities, deep thinking, empathy, creativity. And remember, these aren't limitations. These are superpowers waiting to be unleashed on the world. In every episode of this podcast, we're going to explore how introverts like you can harness your strengths, overcome challenges, and become truly unstoppable in a world that sometimes underestimates the power of introversion. And we're not just going to talk about theory. We're going to dive into real stories. I'm going to talk about some of my own personal experiences. We're going to bring to life some characters who have gone on to be incredibly successful as introverts. We're going to examine practical strategies, tools, techniques, frameworks, systems that you can take away and practically apply in your own lives to overcome some of those common introvert hurdles, to really boost your confidence personally and professionally. So if you've ever questioned whether your introversion is a roadblock or a rocket launch, you're in the right place. The Unstoppable Introvert Project is here to empower you, inspire you, and show you that introversion is not a limitation, but an invitation to greatness. So let's get started on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. In today's episode, we're going to dive into a little bit about what being an introvert means, how we can use our introvertedness to be amazing people and to be high-performing people. And I'm also going to tell you a bit more about me and hopefully paint a bit of a picture that I am in a good place to help lead you towards being the best versions of yourself. Who am I then? So, firstly, thank you for taking a gamble. If you haven't met me before and you've just seen the title of this podcast, I am David Hooper. I am 33 years old and I am painfully introverted. And for a long time, I viewed my introversion as a negative. You know, why am I not as loud as that other person? Why can't I be as confident as that other person? Why am I the one who's shy and can't go and talk to that girl? Why am I the one who can't put my hand up in school, university, in class and answer the question and look in front of my peers? And I've had these thoughts for years and years and years. And it wasn't until my mid-20s, late 20s actually, where I had a lot of catastrophe is what I would call it, a lot of trauma. And I'm going to take you through some of that trauma in a second. And it was coming out the other side of that trauma, which made me realize, actually, being an introvert is an incredible gift. And it's one that a lot of extroverts wish they had. You know, we see extroverts and think, oh, they must be confident and feel great all the time, when actually they look at introverts and think, you have some amazing qualities too. So that's the first thing to really mention. You have so many qualities, but it's more about how you look at those qualities and how you consider them, the perspective, the lens that you look through. And like I mentioned, I do have a coaching background, so I'm going to take you through quite a lot of different strategies and practical tactics that you can directly apply to your own life immediately and start to transform how you see yourself, how you approach situations, and overall how you perform. Because that is one of the big things that this podcast aims to achieve, helping you become the highest performing, unstoppable, best version of yourself. And we're gonna get into it. So, like I mentioned, I'm 33 years old. I am married. I've been married for 8 years to my lovely wife, Laura, who is also painfully introverted at times. 8 years is a long time. So we're going to talk about relationships, maybe challenges in relationships, overcoming them, communicating effectively as introverts. Maybe we'll get Laura on the podcast at some point as well. I've got a German Shepherd who will most likely make an appearance at some point, either when the postman knocks on the door or when my cat, Arwen, kicks off and they have a little shout at each other. I'm sure they will make an appearance though. So yeah, I've got black German Shepherd, black cat, and those three different people and animals are my whole world. So I very family orientated and very tight knit in terms of my bubble. I have some very good close friends. I don't have a ton of friends. I'm very selective in terms of who I let into my bubble, and I think that is kind of a introvert characteristic as well. I'm not looking to impress anybody. I heard a phrase when I was younger, which was obviously public speaking is a big challenge for a lot of introverts. So I'm going to share some secrets around communication, that sort of thing. I'm an ultramarathon runner, so I love sport, I love health, I love fitness, and I've found my sport, and that's ultramarathon running. And it's quite a nice one for an introvert. The long periods by yourself, long periods with your thoughts, you can be reflective, but you're also pushing yourself an incredible amount as well. And then lastly, I've got a PhD in coaching, one of the biggest challenges of my life to get that. And that was incredibly terrifying, especially for an introvert, because during that process, you have to interact with a lot of people, you have to put yourself out there, you have to be vulnerable. And part of the PhD process is that you get interviewed once you've submitted your thesis. And for 3 hours, I was interviewed about what I'd done, why I'd done it, how I'd done it. And I was absolutely terrified. But I came up with some strategies to help me deal with that pressure. So if you're somebody who is looking to contribute more at work, maybe you're looking to date somebody or ask somebody out and deal with that kind of interview pressure, hopefully I can help with that as well. But this podcast has been on my list for quite a while. I've wanted to start a podcast for a long time. I took a year out in terms of my own kind of projects in 2023, and I wanted to learn more, do more, experience more of life. So I just worked at a full-time job. I ran a lot, and I learned a lot around things like marketing, AI, mindset, tried to find my calling a little bit. And during that year, I had to listen to a really horrible phone call that my wife took. So she got a phone call after she'd had a really good day at work, and she skipped into the house. She told me, I've had a great day at work, I've done all of these different things, it's been great. She then took a phone call with someone quite close to her, and they had a conversation, and Laura was just speaking quite normally on the phone, and the person on the other side of the phone, who will remain nameless, said, "Why are you always so down? Why are you always so sad? Why are you always such a killjoy? Why are you always so grumpy?" And Laura looked at me stunned, because she was in the a great mood. And after that, it affected her. She went into a shell. She felt shy. She felt like she wasn't good enough. And it was at that moment where I knew what my calling for 2024 was. It was to get this podcast out and teach introverts how to be the best versions of themselves, the most unstoppable versions of themselves, regardless of what is going on outside of your bubble. Essentially, not giving a fuck about what other people think about you. That is one of the biggest lessons that I took from the trauma I'm going to talk you through, and it has seriously changed my life. I went from wearing what I thought was expected in terms of clothes to what I wanted to wear: jeans, t-shirts, gym tops, and I felt a lot more comfortable actually giving my opinion, because I didn't care if I stepped out of line or upset somebody, if it was something that needed to be said. And if you can get to a position where you don't give a fuck about saying something that might upset a few people, or you get to a point where you don't give a fuck about how your actions, if they're positive that is, will affect somebody, then that is a really good place to get to. For a lot of my life, say, my adult life, I have had no support when it's came to starting businesses or projects and things like that, because it didn't fit the norm of what other people wanted me to do. But I knew those things would make me happy. So I had to learn how to deal with that situation and do it anyway. And this is what this podcast is all about. Introverts are put in a box, and it's my job and this podcast's job, and your job if you're listening, to rip the door off that box, to make sure that that never happens to you again, it never happens to anybody else again. So if you know any introverts, get them to listen to this podcast, follow it, share it, subscribe to it, and yeah, we will change the landscape for introverts forever, because introverts are extremely talented, and you are a ball of potential. That's what I say to my wife. You're a ball of potential. And absolutely unsurprisingly, she has gone and absolutely crushed the start of 2024. So yeah, I will talk more about Laura as we go. I'm sure if you some ladies in the audience who really appreciate her journey, and I'm so proud of her as well. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you more about her as we go. So, went off on a tangent there, but we're back on track, back to my journey. I want to just introduce myself to you to really paint the picture of who you're talking to. So, my background is that I was always quiet, always introverted, and I probably take after my dad in that case. He's quite quiet, quite introverted. And my background is that I played a lot of sport. So I wasn't particularly good at school. I went and ticked along, but the thing I was good at was football, or soccer if you're in the US. And I was an academy player, so an elite level footballer up to 16 years old, and then I got released. I wasn't offered a professional contract. And that was the first time that I was ever depressed. And that obviously really shook my confidence. The only thing I'd ever seen myself doing was football, and knowing that that was no longer an option made me feel extremely lost. But anyway, I went back to sixth form, did my studies, failed all of my A-levels, and so that was a real waste of time. 2 years, waste of time, but managed to get on a foundation degree course, because I had nothing else to do, basically. I couldn't get a job, didn't know what job I wanted to do, so went and did a foundation degree. And that was a really good year or two, met some amazing people there, and that got me into kind of education and thinking about my future. So I did the foundation degree in a top-up year to get the full kind of degree, but decided to go a different route, went and got a master's degree in business management, really enjoyed it. And that started to open my eyes up to different kind of options. Fast forward a couple of years, I got a job working at a university. So I was a lecturer in a university, and I was also doing a PhD in coaching and leadership as well. And that was 2017. So I was about 27 years old then. And the reason that I always pause the story here is because this is where my trauma happened. So I was made redundant from that university job in July 2017. And it was the job I'd wanted, the job my family wanted me to have, the job I thought I wanted to have. And I was obviously doing my PhD at the time as well. And that sent me into a spiral. So what happened was I was made redundant in the July, and I ate myself silly over the next few months. I would eat 2 or 3 takeaways a day, a bottle of wine a day, plus other stuff, crisps, sweets, chocolate, beer, puddings, cakes, fry-ups, you name it, I ate it. And over the next 6 months, I put on 70 pounds worth of body fat. And that was a really challenging time. You know, I had no purpose. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was a recluse in the house. I'd just draw the curtains all day and just eat and watch TV. I'd be lucky to leave the bed. I would only leave to eat, basically. So I put 70 pounds of weight on. And also during that time, I was medically diagnosed with clinical depression and medicated. And that was really hard, as you can imagine. When you're diagnosed with depression, you kind of have only one of 2 real options. 1, you deal with it yourself, or 2, you get medication. Now, the medication was something that really messed me up. So I was already this shy, unconfident, purposeless guy who was feeling down all the time. But this medication numbed me out. So I just felt nothing, absolutely nothing. No excitement, but also no sadness. I was just there in terms of going through the motions, but I wasn't there for anybody. I was literally just getting through the days for no reason. I wasn't losing weight. I was eating still. The only enjoyment that I was getting from life at that point was eating, which, is really quite sad. So anyway, fast forward to December 2017. So I had put on 70 pounds of weight. I was numbed out because of my depression. No exercise, no job prospects. I'd paused my PhD at that time as well because it was just too much. And it was Christmas 2017. And it was at this moment I thought I'd hit rock bottom. But I hadn't quite hit rock bottom. You see, at Christmas, we kind of went to my in-laws' house. We sat around giving presents to each other, as you do. And I got a present from my in-laws. And it was a t-shirt that was a XXL t-shirt. And the t-shirt was lovely, and it was the right size as well. But for someone who normally wears small or medium t-shirts, holding up a XXL t-shirt and looking at it broke not only my heart, but my mind as well. And I had that moment where everything just slows down. Everything just slows down. And I kind of looked around the room and thought, you all met me when I was an athlete, when I was 5 stone lighter. My wife married me when I looked completely different. I was this high-flying young lecturer doing a PhD, making good money, in great shape, making good choices, and suddenly I'm this now depressed, morbidly obese, broke, redundant, no PhD guy with no prospects. And that all happened, those thoughts happened in about 2 seconds. So I thanked my in-laws for the present. You know, like I said, it was a lovely gift. But in my head, I thought, I'm never going to wear this t-shirt. I'm going to sort my shit out. So I put it to the side, you know, carried on. Fast forward again for about 10 minutes. We're sitting round the dinner table having Christmas dinner. And I am wearing the tightest pink shirt you have ever seen. And what I had to do was, because the buttons were so tight, and I thought they were going to fling off and hit my father-in-law in the face, was I had to excuse myself from dinner, go and get changed into the triple XL t-shirt. And I said I hadn't hit rock bottom before. That was my rock bottom moment. And I had a little cry in the bedroom when I was getting changed, looked myself in the mirror and thought, right, I'm going to get myself sorted. And that was my eureka moment. So into 2018, I had a lot of work to do. I was morbidly obese. I was medically diagnosed with depression. I was redundant. I had some stuff to sort out. But the first thing I did was start to look at my mindset. And this is where a lot of you will be able to change your lives with how you see being an introvert. And it's something called reframing. So I learned about reframing, which is where you look at an obstacle in your life and you see it from a different angle, maybe a more positive angle. And I had 3 things I wanted to look at. So I saw my morbidly obeseness as an opportunity to get fit, to reshape my body into something I'm proud of. I saw my depression as an opportunity to re-find my happiness and, you know, what did I actually love doing with my life. And lastly, my redundancy, I saw it as an opportunity to start a business because I'd always wanted to do that. And when you see that it's not just doom and gloom and there are other sides to the coin, it makes things easier to put an action plan in place. So to get this started, I got kitted up on the 2nd of January 2018 and thought, right, I'm going to go for a 6-mile run. Ambitious for a morbidly obese guy who hadn't moved very much for the past 6 or 7 months. I got changed, went out the door, ran for about 300 yards, and I know it was about that because I could still see my house when I stopped running and felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I felt horrendous and thought, there's no way I'm running 6 miles because that was far too much anyway. So I slumped back to the house and I stopped at our garden gate. And I said, if I go back into the house now, I am going to eat. I'm going to eat because that's what I do when I'm sad. I eat drink, I eat, and I nap. And I kept the garden gate closed and I walked past it. And I walked and I ran for another 3 miles. And I got back and I felt incredible. I've got a picture of me holding up a blue t-shirt, a massive blue t-shirt, which was from that first run, and it's soaked in sweat, and it is one of my proudest moments because 1, I'd exercised when I said I was going to, but 2, I'd broken that barrier of I'm going home, I give up, that I quit mentality. And something that introverts find, something you might find, is that when the going does get tough, we do go into our shells a little bit. We maybe give up. And that's certainly what my approach used to be. I used to be a quitter. So being able to develop a resilience, mental toughness strategies, which we're going to talk about, by the way, over the next few months, is one of the big things that changed my life back in 2018. So that was January 2018. And I got to work. I started to do the things I knew about, things like counting calories, things like exercise, mindset, journaling, developing my business plan, networking, all of the things that are in your control, I started to do. And by June 2018, I had lost 5 stone. I'd lost 70 pounds. I had been signed off by medication for depression. I had started a business called First Step Lifestyle, and I had refound my happiness, which was walking the dog up and down hills, spending time with Laura and my family, and my life was in a much, much different place. And it hasn't been all plain sailing from there, by the way, which I will go into over these next weeks and months. But in terms of painting you a picture, when it comes to my background, that morbidly obese, depressed, redundant man has gone on to fix a lot of those challenges. And along the way, I've learned how to turn being an introvert into a superpower. And I'm going to share all that with you as we go as well. So I am so excited to bring you along this journey. I am going to be as open and as vulnerable as I possibly can. Being an introvert, I don't like to let people in. You can probably agree with that, but I'm going to do my best to let you all in, and it's a no holds barred, and we're gonna really get into this. So yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be a mix of coaching, hopefully some motivational stories for you as well, some practical strategies, and yeah, we can start to change your life in the positive. In terms of what we're going to cover, I do have some ideas, but if you've got any ideas, things you want me to cover, things you're struggling with, just send me a message at Dr. David Hooper on Instagram, and you can have a chat with me. I can cover those topics on the podcast as well, and we can make sure that you are well and truly looked after while the podcast runs. But some challenges that I thought we would face are going to be things like how to deal with socializing. I don't know about you, but I find going to large group events, networking events, even family events, extremely draining, tiring. I've got to build myself up to it. I'm going to tell you all about how to deal with all of that. Small talk, so something that I've struggled with all of these things. That's why I've got this list. The small talk element, how do you make small talk? How do you make meaningful connections? How do you have, those deep conversations where you have an impact on somebody? I'm going to talk about how to kind of, get into that a little bit. The networking side, I know that for you it can be challenging. I find it challenging initiating that conversation, meeting new people, making an impact on those people, trying not to come across as some nervous, fidgety, quiet person when, that's a challenge. It's a challenge. But for those of you who are interested in getting promoted at work, becoming team leaders, or maybe you've got bigger ambitions, you want to be CEOs, you want to run your own business, you want to be public speakers, you want to give presentations internationally, whatever it is, these are the skills that you need to be successful. Concentration and feeling overwhelmed. So it's a challenge for us when either we work in a collaborative space and there's lots of things going on, lots of people, maybe you work in an open office, lots of distractions, or if you work at home and you're just by yourself where there is, a pressure on you to deliver and you haven't got anyone to bounce your ideas off, that can be just as much of a challenge in different ways because you can get into your own head and that overwhelm can be too much. So I'm going to help you deal with that as well. Thoughts on the spot. So in team meetings, something that I do struggle with is when in a team meeting you have to contribute or try to contribute. A lot of team meetings are set up in a way that extroverts jump on. They're louder, they're more outspoken. And to be honest, that's a criticism of it's a poor management style. If your manager cannot facilitate an environment where introverts can contribute, using tools, strategies, techniques, and and frameworks, that's poor management. That's not your complaint. Well, it is your complaint. It's not your problem. But we need to be able to still contribute in terms of how to be more spontaneous, how to communicate on the spot. And I've got some tools and techniques for that as well. Standing out in crowds, or how you come across in crowds. I've had some really interesting conversations with some people over the last few days when I mentioned I was doing this podcast, who said, I don't know how people view me. I think it's negatively. I think they think that I'm grumpy, I'm quiet, that I'm uninterested, that I don't have anything to say, when it's just simply not true. So I'm going to tell you how to deal with that, how to navigate those difficult circumstances as well. And then anything else you want to cover, I will absolutely do my best to cover. It's going to be a ride. It's going to be a ride. But remember, please slide into the DMs, send me a message, give me any hints and tips around what you might want to hear about. If there's anybody you think is a really inspiring introvert, we'll try and get them on the show as well as a guest. And we are going to build an introvert tribe that is unstoppable. The Unstoppable Introvert Project is launched, and we're going to be coming to you at least 2 times a week. We're going for 100 episodes in 2024, and who knows what that might lead to. I've got ambitions where we develop things like meetups, events, workshops, and once I understand what you guys truly, truly want, I am going to work my backside off to make sure that I deliver it for you. I am someone who is so passionate about helping you achieve your goals. There is no one like it otherwise. There is no one like it on the planet. I am that person for you. I am going to help you achieve whatever your goal is, whether it's a promotion, starting a business, starting a relationship, becoming more confident, being a public speaker, changing your life. Maybe you're someone who's depressed or morbidly obese, you want to lose weight. I will help you with all of that, and I'm so excited to do it. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to harness the power of being an introvert and becoming unstoppable. Remember to subscribe to our podcast, and if you found this episode valuable, please share it with your fellow unstoppable introverts. Remember to like and subscribe and share this with someone who might need it. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. David Hooper. And every week we will be uncovering the ways we can change the game for introverts all over the world. So until next time, remember that being an introvert isn't the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that will make you unstoppable. Have a great week. Take care.